Well, hello there. Welcome to this episode of Just a Few. My name is Patrick Antoine, and on this platform, I have the opportunity, privilege really, to provide biblical responses to questions from people like you. And before we go any further, I always say if you have a question, please feel free, if you want me to attempt an answer, to send that question via email to the email address on the screen, and I'm going to try my best to provide you a response as soon as I can. Today's question it comes from the life of David when he was king. It's actually one of the very low points in the life of David if you study his biography. It's a very lengthy narrative, and I can't read everything in just a few minutes, so I'll have to summarize this. But first, let me read the question for you. The question is, why did God allow Bathsheba's baby to die? Of course, if you're not familiar with the Bible, that's incident, you'll ask who or what is Bathsheba. So let me give you a quick summary. David was king, and as king, he would have normally been required to lead his troops out to battle once there is war taking place. But David's army had grown to become so powerful that he was actually able to send his generals out to lead the armies in battle and do so successfully. So on that one particular occasion in 2 Samuel chapter 11, David chose to remain at home in Jerusalem while his armies were out there fighting against the Ammonites and others. And it was during one probably warm evening out there in Jerusalem that he was on his rooftop taking it easy, and he looked down and he saw a woman bathing. David's house would have probably been the highest around, and he saw a woman having a bath, a ritual bath, and a bath. And he lusted after her, and he sent for her. He exercised his right at that time as the king, sent for her and brought her and slept with her. The lady became pregnant. David found out. She told him eventually, and David knew, well, everybody in Jerusalem know how to count from 1 to 9. And so he decided he had to cover his tracks. So he had to find a way to give the impression that the pregnancy was the woman's husband's, the child was the woman's husband's own. And so the husband was out in the battle, so David sent him to come back in, and whole sordid Hollywood type scenario played off, and the man refused to go and have sex with his wife. So David eventually realized the only way to cover his tracks is to get rid of the husband, have him executed on the battlefield, and then take the woman in to be his wife, so it will look as if, well, that was David's wife. She is having a child for David. All along, God was aware of what was happening. And in chapter 12, God sends the prophet Nathan to confront David. And again, I can't read even the entire narrative. Nathan uses a parable and confronts David and says, "You are the man. You are the man. You are the one who I was talking about in this parable, who destroyed a family, destroyed a man, and took his wife." And now I want to read for you so that you'll see what happened with this baby that was conceived. Verse 13 of 2 Samuel 12 says, "So David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said to David, the Lord also has put away your sin. You shall not die. However, because by this deed you have given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, the child also who is born to you shall surely die." I said, wait a minute, why not David? Why the child? Then Nathan departed to his house, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife brought to David, and it became ill. David therefore pleaded with God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night on the ground. So the elders of his house arose and went to him and to raise him up from the ground, but he would not, nor did he eat food with them. Verse 18 says, "Then on the 7th day, after 7 days of praying and fasting, it came to pass that the child died. And the servants of David were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, indeed, while the child was alive, we spoke to him and he would not heed our voice. How can we tell him that the child is dead? He may do some harm." And that's a synopsis of what is happening there. And as the question is requesting, why did God allow Bathsheba, who is the woman, her child to die. This was an innocent baby. And the Bible records incidents like these for us. These are isolated incidents where God does something that seems drastic, and we don't see it done anymore again. We don't see every time this is not the only time adultery was committed in the Bible, but we don't see every time it happened, God acts this way and kills the baby. So it's obvious that it's some reason why God killed this baby, allowed this baby to die. And whenever these incidents are recorded in the Bible, it's to teach us something. So like when you see in the book of Numbers, I believe, someone is caught collecting sticks on the Sabbath in the wilderness, and God says, stone him. We don't ever see it happen again. We don't ever see that drastic action taken anymore. Or Aaron's sons in Leviticus 10 offering strange fire, doing something foolish. They went in drunk, it seems, to minister, and both of them died. So sometimes we see these things happen and we think that's God is going to do that all the time. No, it doesn't happen all the time, and there must be a reason why he allowed it once. It's to send a clear message to us, a warning. And in this case, I believe that the message coming out of this has to do with sin and how it affects those around us. And this was an ideal opportunity for God to use this as an object lesson to all of humanity. That even as adults, we may say, well, I am a grown person, and this was a case of two consenting adults. You ever hear that expression? Well, in the eyes of God, you can't consent to sin. There's no such thing as consenting adults in the eyes of God. If you don't agree with that now, you will agree with it on Judgment Day, maybe. So that David and his actions, they were sinful in the eyes of God. And what this is telling us is that, and I wrote this down, let me read it. Sin often has consequences which affect those that had nothing to do with the acts committed. Innocent people, and sometimes even innocent animals, remember, Noah on the judgment in his day, God wiped out everything. And we don't understand why. What did the animals do? Well, sin, there's something mysterious about it that we can't see, but God sees it, and it's called the mystery of iniquity, the mystery of lawlessness. So innocent people are made to endure the outcomes of human sin. That is what is happening here. So when, like David, we act selfishly and fulfill the lust of our flesh and do whatever we want and say, well, I'm an adult, I can do whatever I want, it's my life. It's not that way. It's not. We are all connected, and sin sometimes affects innocent people. And the primary perpetrators don't escape, because David faced a lot of consequences for his action, but he alone didn't face consequences. And this passage is teaching us that when we sin, other people get affected, not just us. So this whole idea, well, this thing is a victimless crime. We have people say about some things like using some drugs and so on. We need to understand that sin affects everybody. There's a principle. When Adam sinned, the sin principle has affected everything in the universe. I was not there physically when Adam sinned, but Adam's sin affects me. And you hear sometimes people in the whole abortion debate saying, a woman is saying, this is my body and nobody should tell me what to do with my body. Since when your body has two hearts? Sin affects. How many babies have just been slaughtered in their mother's wombs? Innocent babies, simply because their existence has been viewed by their parents or by society as a nuisance, as some sort of inconvenience to society or to the parents. Innocent people are affected because our sin has that effect. And that's why I believe God left this day as a warning to us. Not that he wants to kill every baby that is born of adultery, because I'm sure you see it's not happening. So keep that in mind. This passage also doesn't teach that every time you see a baby born sick or dead or stillborn, does it mean that the parents committed some type of sin. This is not what this passage is teaching. This is a warning that sin affects even people who are disconnected from the acts committed, people who are innocent. And it's a warning to all of us to stop living a selfish life, to think what I do shouldn't matter to anybody else. Yes, it does. If a woman is pregnant and she decides to use drugs and alcohol, tobacco, that innocent baby is affected. And we need to understand our actions affect other people. And this is what this passage is teaching. And this is why God allowed us to have the benefit of this passage, not because God wants to kill every newborn baby because of the sins of the parents. That's not God. My name is Patrick Antoine. Thank you for the question. Again, as always, I hope my response provides an appropriate clarification of the issue for you. Until the next time, please enjoy the grace